Jennifer Rowley and Kevin Bylsma, how are you both today?
Hi, honey. Good. How are you?
I'm terrific. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
A huge pleasure. No worries.
Yeah, great
Excellent.
fun.
Let's talk all things Aida, which opens the Toledo Opera season on October 2nd and 4th. Yay. So Jennifer, the Toledo Opera production will be your North American debut in this role. Is that correct?
That's correct. I did my debut this season in Barcelona at the Liceu. That was my role debut and house debut, quite a house debut.
Wow.
But it was beautiful old production with hand-painted drops that, I'm not even kidding, I mean, the dimension on them was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the costumes, were worn by everyone. So that was incredible to see the little stickers inside of the costumes of who had worn it before.
Any famous names you can share with us in your costumes?
My costume was, oh gosh, now I can't remember. It'll come to me in like 10 minutes.
Okay. So Kevin,
so beautiful.
Of course.
So excited to do it in North America. Really, I can't wait. And at home, my home.
Yay!
We're so happy to have you back. Kevin, Aida calls for a very, very large chorus. Why is that?
Well, there are so many characters that they play. The chorus needs to be priests and priestesses. They need to be soldiers. They need to be the entourage of the pharaoh. There are just so many roles that the chorus actually does that you need a big chorus. And the sound needs to be mammoth, to match the mammoth-ness of the production.
So Jennifer, what is interesting about the character of Aida and the music she sings? What have you found from debuting this role?
Well, Aida is fascinating. When we meet her, she's basically been taken prisoner. And she is Ethiopian, and she's been taken prisoner in Egypt. So when we meet her, we actually see her as a slave. But from the background information, we know that she's actually a princess herself. And she is actually in the servitude of Amneris, who is the princess at that time. And we discover through studying the text and studying the libretto and the music that actually Aida is quite intelligent. Her father really trained her well. You can tell through her use of language, and this is the most fascinating part about her, that she can speak in multiple languages. And at that time, for a woman to be that intelligent was pretty amazing. So what happens in the libretto is when Aida is speaking with Amneris and the Radames, and in the presence of the king, she adapts their pentameter. So she adapts their rhyme scheme for the text that she's speaking. But when she has her own arias, and when she's speaking with her father, Amonasro, she completely changes her pentameter and her rhyme scheme, and they have a completely different rhyme scheme for their text. So we can tell by that Aida can actually speak a different language and communicate with the people in the country that she's been held prisoner in. So I think that has helped her kind of stay in the good graces of Amneris. To have, gotten to meet Radames in the first place, she would have had to be pretty intelligent to do so. Because if you're taken in as a prisoner, I mean, you're basically made a slave, you're tortured, you're treated terribly, you're raped, you're beaten, you're all these things. And she has actually, gotten herself to the point where she is basically the servant of one of the most powerful people in the whole country. So I think this shows a great amount of intelligence and a great amount of strength on her part. So it really makes a very interesting character arch when you know how strong and how formidable and how intelligent and how passionate she is. And it changes so many of the scenes when you know what language she's speaking and when she's speaking it and when she's using the different rhyme and different pentameters of the language.
Wow.
That's really, really interesting. You've gotten all that from one production. That's fabulous.
Well, I actually found that before the production. I have an amazing language coach, Lucy Yates, who actually teaches in California. And we do all of our diction work together via Skype or FaceTime before I take anything on the stage. So we actually discovered that together as we were working the language and working with the libretto and then seeing the music and seeing how things were set. And when she changes, it's really fascinating. And actually, when she's mad at Radames, or when she's trying to manipulate Radames in Act 3, she actually changes pentameter and will only use her own with him, where previously she had been adapting his. So it's actually like you can see the manipulation of him even in the language. It's fascinating. It was fascinating work. So we did that all before going. And then when I explained this to the director actually in Barcelona, he loved it. And he was like, let's do it. Let's use it. Let's create a really strong, vulnerable, intelligent, fantastic character. So it was really fun to explore that.
I can't wait to see you work on this. It's going to be amazing. So tell me, how do you prepare vocally different for Aida than you would, say, the role of Vanessa, which you have sung with us, or Tosca, which you've sung at the Met and all over the world?
No, because really, they all fit into the same vocal category. They all fit into the same Fach, right? So there's really no difference in how you prepare them vocally. There's a difference in how you prepare them musically, for sure. Because Puccini's lines and drama are very different than Verdi's lines and drama. And they're both very different from Samuel Barber's lines and drama, So, when Kevin and I first started working on Vanessa, we were noticing all these crazy little details in the score that, to the untrained ear, you don't hear that he's using this kind of a dissonance or this kind of a seventh or adding something strange in the harmony in order to sort of drive the drama and the emotion of the character. And while Verdi and Puccini do that, they do it in a very different way. So you have to analyze the scores a little bit differently than you would for something like Vanessa. But for Aida, I find Aida very close to bel canto repertoire. So even though she's not technically a bel canto role, and even though technically Aida is not a bel canto opera, it's written in such a way that if you think of the techniques of bel canto music, she becomes very easy to sing. And for me, she actually, I say, went into the voice, really went into the muscles of the throat very quickly, much more quickly than, say, Tosca, which is not so bel canto. It's a little bit more drawn out, and the lines are a bit longer and thicker and richer, and the orchestra is a bit heavier. And Aida sort of rides on top of everything, like the bel canto characters like Norma and Roberto Devereux and Anna Bolena and things like that. So my voice felt like I was singing bel canto music when I was first working on Aida. And so it went in it much more quickly and in a different way than something more dramatic like Tosca or Vanessa, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally. So Kevin, do you have a favorite recording of Aida?
Not so much an audio recording. I mean, I have a selections recording with Callas, so I love that. And I love anything that Leontine Price ever did. But yes, video-wise, there are a couple things that just really speak to me. The final Met production of Aida with Leontine Price,
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
But also, there's I think it was from late 70s, early 80s, from San Francisco with Pavarotti, doing a fabulous job as always as Radames. But Dimitrova was the Amneris, and she was just as fierce as can be. But Margaret Price was the Aida.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's so easy for her. It's just incredible. It made it seem like a walk in the park. Everything was just, the ease of the vocal production was amazing. And in fact, at the curtain call, she gets more applause than Pavarotti. It's amazing. But that's probably, it's not a recording, but it's on DVD, and I highly encourage everybody to see it. It's fantastic.
I have to also add that the Leontine, the last recording at the Met, the final Met, the Patria Mia,
I know,
is literally
I'm tearing up thinking about it.
anyone will ever see ever. It's literally the best. I don't know how she did what she did that night, but it was absolutely incredible.
I agree.
So Kevin, Aida is called the most grand of grand opera. Tell us why.
Why? Well, grand opera is actually a French term, especially applied to the French operas in the early 19th to mid 19th century, in which there were usually 5 acts and there was always mandatory ballet. You had to have ballet. So there are fortunately only 4 acts in Aida. There is ballet, but it's used to just tell the story, to further the plot along. So it's grand in terms of like watching a movie, like 10 Commandments or Lawrence of Arabia. It's grand in this huge scape of things. You have sphinx and pyramids. You have this exoticism of Egypt, especially what something as foreign and abstract as what Egypt would be like to an Italian audience of the late 19th century. That to me is what makes it grand. And the scale, as we talked about with the chorus, the large chorus, the vocal lines of each principal artist are of a grand scale. And the story itself, though it's really an intimate love story, love triangle, basically, the story itself is I think elevated to something that is of grander scale.
Great, that's amazing. So Jennifer, Vicky from our Facebook group, which is called Tutti, said she's so impressed with your teaching and mentoring of young singers, and she wants to know if you could only give one piece of advice to young singers, what would it be?
I literally, the one thing, and I just had a birthday and I was actually thinking about this. It was kind of a milestone birthday. I won't age myself, but I was thinking about
20, we know, it was 20.
But I was thinking about this and I was thinking about, what would I tell to my 20-year-old self, knowing what I know now? And I would tell my 20-year-old self to be patient. It's a long road. It's a long road to get to the place where you are singing constantly and consistently. It's a long road to get to the place where you are vocally ready to sing these roles. It's a long road to understand your voice and how it works and the science of it and how it functions every day and what things you have to do as a person in your normal life to keep it healthy. And it's never an overnight instant success. It's an overnight success that took 10 years. It's never, it happens. It's not that. It's someone, when you see someone who's really made it, they've worked really hard to get to that place where you see the debut, where they really are deemed having made it, or are deemed a star is born, or, whatever that may be for you. It's taken them probably a decade or more to get to that point. And I just remember being a young singer in college and wanting it right now. Wanting all the solos, wanting the roles, wanting to sing, wanting to be on stage, wanting this, wanting that. And it not realizing the reality that you're not ready. You have to grow into your craft, into your technique, and you also have to grow as a person. I mean, I would not be able to understand Aida as a character 15 years ago the way that I understand her now, having lived, having loved, having had my heart broken, having all of those emotions kind of in your little tool chest as a singer. You have to live all of those things so that you can recall those feelings and those memories and put that onto the stage. If you've never had that sensation yet, that feeling, that heartbreak, that passion, that whatever, how do you come up with that emotion to put it into a character? So you have to live, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to study, and all of that takes time. So my advice, my one piece of advice to a young singer would be to be patient. It will happen, but it's not going to happen overnight like that.
You're so insightful. I could listen to you all day. I know you don't have that kind of time, but
Thanks.
my favorite part of Aida has always been the Oteradio in Act 4. Do you have a favorite part that you either love to sing, or what's your favorite part of the opera?
My favorite part is the duet with Amonasro. I just love it so much. I mean, oh my God. First of all, Act 3 is a bear, right? It's the longest act for Aida. She's on stage for 45 minutes and she doesn't stop singing. It's the hardest music for Aida. And after she has to start the act, she has to come out after intermission and sing the most difficult and most beautiful aria in the whole piece. And then she has to get in a fight with her father with the most dramatic music, the heaviest orchestral playing, all the brass, all the percussion, all the everything right after that. And it is spectacular. That duet with the two of them, I mean, I cry every time. I have tears running down my face. And I'm getting chills just thinking about it because it's so great. It's just such great drama and such great storytelling and music writing and just everything. Yeah, I look forward to that every single show.
Kevin, do you have a favorite part?
I do, and it's not a chorus thing either. I happen, and maybe it's because it was the first aria that I ever played from Aida, but Ritorno Vincitor. I know it's so difficult to sing and so difficult to portray, but to me, taking the text that the chorus has just sung, you know, and to use that as the catapult for the aria, I find dramatically just amazing. But also the ending of it, that little Numi Pietà, to me, it almost sounds like it's a Baroque gesture, those sighing figures. And it just gets me every time. I think it's just extraordinary. And the number of emotions that so quickly change in that aria just drives me crazy.
Isn't it amazing when the Numi Pietà comes back in again?
Yes. And the duet.
Heartbreaking. She just like wailed high seas together. And then you get this like precious little, please, please, please help me. I don't know what to do. Help me. This is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to work on this with you. We're so excited you're coming back to Toledo. You have performed Musetta for us in La Boheme, the title role in Vanessa, which was amazing, and two galas for us, and we are so appreciative every time you come to Toledo. What brings you back to Toledo Opera?
I feel like you guys are my family. I feel like you guys are my home company. You guys have been there for me for a long time. You know, like I said, that overnight success that took 10 years to get to, but you guys have been there. And, you know, it's where I'm from. I'm not from Toledo proper, but I'm, you know, from very nearby. I have a lot of family in the area. I lived in Detroit for a long time, and you know, Kevin and I worked together for all those years that I lived in Detroit. And, you know, you guys let me use your workspace and never said anything, never charged me a dime, just, you've always been so supportive of me and my career and everything. And I just feel like you're my family. I feel like I'm home when I'm in Toledo with you guys. And it really makes me so happy too that, you know, my family can come and see these big masterworks that, you know, yes, okay, maybe I'm singing it in Paris, but like my grandfather can't get on a plane at this point in his life and go to Paris. But he can get in the car and come to Toledo and hear a world-class cast and a great orchestra and amazing chorus and see a big full-scale production of Aida without having to be sad that he missed something overseas, you know? So it means a lot to me to be able to come back to Toledo and to do roles and to have my family there and to have students in the area there. And it just really, I just really feel like I'm home with you guys.
Well, the feeling is mutual. We love you.
Yes,
you know
is.
that. And you can sing anything you want. You know that. Any final thoughts? Because I know we're getting to time here. Kevin, any final thoughts on Aida?
karma together.
Just come and see the show. It's going to be amazing.
Jennifer,
Yeah,
any final thoughts?
It's an awesome cast. Super excited. So Carl Tanner and I covered Otello together at the Met. And I believe we did Tosca together too, if I'm not mistaken. And Corey Kreider, who's playing Amonasro, he and I have actually done Tosca together and had a blast throwing each other around during Act 2. That was super fun. And Dean Williamson and I have done Tosca together, the conductor. So, you know, it's an awesome cast, and you're gonna everybody who comes to see it is gonna fall in love with it for sure.
And your arch rival is Deborah Nanstill, who's playing Amneris.
Yeah, who I actually saw in Michigan, but I also saw sing in Lucia at the Met. And like sat in the seat and said to myself, wow, that's a voice. Like that's it. She was singing Lucia with, I think it was Jessica Pratt, and I went to see because I was really interested in hearing Jessica sing at the Met. And then Deb opened her mouth, and I was like, oh, this is a real voice. Like that's a big mezzo. So I'm excited to sing with her too. Very excited to sing with her.
Well, we can't wait. October 2nd and 4th. Season subscriptions are on sale now. So thank you so much, Jennifer Rowley and Kevin Bylsma, for talking with me today.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
We'll talk to you real soon.
Bye.